So, question of the week for the show is, how can WWE improve their secondary title scene now? Obviously, the United States Championship for the women's side has just, they just basically, got that out, as well as the Intercontinental Championship for the ladies. So it's going to take them time to develop. But for the established championships, like for the men, the United States Championship with Shinsuke holding it, and now Braun Breaker, and of course, you can look at the tag team titles as well. What can WWE do? What the creative team could do to basically strengthen that title scene to make it just as important as the main event scene?
Matt, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go?
Boy, I don't know at this point.
Hey, Matt, listen, this is your platform too. If you want to let it go off, hey.
Well, I guess I'll get things kick-started, and we can kind of bounce off of each other's ideas here.
Okay.
Right?
All right, cool.
No big deal. So I think one of the easiest ways to make the belts mean something. I mean, the obvious answer is, "Oh, it was good, Stan. How you doing? Oh, what you call it? I see that gold in your photo. I like that. I like that right there. What you call it? That's a champion. Now that's a champion right there. But what you call it? The easiest way to get people to care is obviously to add depth to the divisions by putting the right people in the right places, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit. But let's just get that out the way. Like, obviously the depth. But let's talk about some of the other things we can do.
Be nice, GC. I know what you're trying to say. Be nice.
For example, I think what would be interesting for the Intercontinental and US Championships is having like matches or seasonal events that kind of revolve around those titles. I advocated for this a couple years ago when I said that WWE should definitely think about bringing back TV specials, similar to what TNA did back in the day, or what NXT's been doing for the past Lord knows how many years now, bringing back stuff like Halloween Havoc and the Great American Bash, which I think the Great American Bash would fit very well in the main roster in terms of like, what do you call it? Having a US championship themed deal with that. Because I remember as a kid, the Great American Bash used to be a SmackDown pay-per-view, which is ironic because that's where the US title was kind of born, or the modern version of it was born on SmackDown. If SmackDown had control of the Great American Bash and they had like a US championship battle royal or an open, or they had a tournament building to the Great American Bash where the winner gets the opportunity to go after the US championship on the Super Show. Things like that would be kind of cool. Or in the case of the Intercontinental Championship, you can bring up like different aspects of its history. So I guess in terms of the Intercontinental title, allowing it to main event, having any of the championships main event would be nice. Obviously the US or the Intercontinental Championships, but the Intercontinental title has such a history with the company that people have seen it main event Raws before. People have seen it main event pay-per-view. Well, not enough, but you get the idea. I think that having those seasonal events or, tournaments, I know they have the King of the Ring and whatnot, but like having maybe mini tournaments throughout the year for the Intercontinental Championship, or putting more effort into like maximizing the TV time for these things. Because when you have two Intercontinental titles now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen enough Braun Breaker recently outside of like backstage segments and him being in the crowd. So it would be nice to see more of like Braun Breaker scouting, like sitting ringside and scouting people in the division, watching their matches more if he's not going to be active. And if he is going to compete, having matches that show why he's the champion. Like the matches he had with Sheamus obviously show that from the, from Saturday Night's main event. But like, him having other kind of challenges too. Like you can even show Braun Breaker having challenges outside of his division. Like, there's no reason why a Braun Breaker, before Drew got moved over to SmackDown, couldn't have had a match against Drew McIntyre, right? Kind of putting the Intercontinental title on his back and showing why this division is the best division, or why this title is the best champion. If having him versus Gunther on an episode of Raw, champion versus champion, which obviously wouldn't have a clean finish because both guys kind of need to be protected going into Mania. But just having them go at it and giving people a taste of what the future is going to look like while he's Intercontinental champion would definitely help people look at him and go, damn, I need to see more of Braun. If you don't already feel that already. So you could do that for either of the championships, and that goes for the men and the women. Like there's no reason why you can't have a Chelsea Green, Tiffany Stratton if Tiffany's being pushed more in a babyface light. There's no reason why you can't have Lyra and Rhea tear it up. Can you imagine Lyra and Rhea having a dope ass match on Raw And then obviously it breaks down, and then we get the 6 women tag match that kind of saves everything. But just that taste of what you can see from them. I know Lyra recently lost to Bailey on Raw in the qualifiers, and I know that Chelsea also lost her qualifiers. There was some controversy around that. I'm not going to get into that much, but I guess that'd be another way to improve it. As you move certain people in, you need to have some established names in there to kind of garner in the casual audience who don't really know the younger people. But you shouldn't have the older people sunning these younger people that easily. You got to keep it heavily competitive. I think. I'm sorry, I'm rambling so much, but you have to keep it heavily competitive, those divisions, because those divisions are the divisions where those people have a lot to prove. They have to show their worth because a lot of fans don't know who these people are. Like Matt, right?
Yeah.
What you call it? Zelina Vega.
I like that Zelina's there.
Yeah, Zelina is great in that division, but for a person who's fought for the championship before in her home country or her country of origin in terms of her nationality, you don't, and with all the achievements she's had in WWE, she still feels like she has something to prove.
Sure.
People like a Zelina need those type of matches on a consistent basis to keep people interested. They need the segments to keep them interested, like good segments, not generic ones, like ones that actually show a little bit more uniqueness to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what I really feel. Obviously, it's getting the right talents to go in there with the younger talents, getting those seasonal events so that the championships have their own themes and their own identities. Because otherwise, you're just like, why would I go after the U.S. championship when the world title's there? Or what makes this belt stand out from the world title? So like a U.S. title invitational, or you could have intercontinental title tournaments. No more ladder matches. No more of that stuff from Mania.
I was just about to say that.
No bootleg Money in the Bank. Stop.
Yeah.
Listen to me, WWE. You know what? Here's where I take the mic. Listen here, you. Stop giving us these bootleg ladder matches. Don't do that. You wanna really impress me? Okay? Drop the battle royals. Drop the bootleg ladder matches or the multi-person ladder matches. You know what you should do? Just bring Money in the Bank back because y'all don't need Money in the Bank as a pay-per-view. You've proven that. You've proven that. And you brought back King of the Ring. You can easily have King of the Ring take its spot. You can bring the actual Money in the Bank match back to Mania because if you want to make Mania moments and you want to really splurge on a ladder match once a year, why not do it when all the eyes are on the show?
All right, so basically, no, but before we get to you real quickly. So based off what Kid Ty just said, guys, so to the 130 people that's in the chat, thank you guys for joining in, tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe to the YouTube. If you're on Twitter, please retweet to your people. If you're on Facebook, please like and share. Do you feel that, to those in the chat, do you guys feel that we can do away with the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, PLE, as it is, and reintroduce it back into WrestleMania to give more excitement surrounding the mid-card titles?
100%.
Well, the mid card
that's where they're going with that.
It's going to work with them. It's going to work with the main event more so, but it definitely will open up some spots for the rest of the calendar. Because here's my thing: I would rather the Money in the Bank be at Mania. You do that, and then you can use whatever was left of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view for something else. Like hell, you could even have a scenario where, let's say, if you're not ready to have a world title match for the King of the Ring spot, you could have an Intercontinental or U.S. Championship match from there too. Like there are other things that you can do. I'm passionate about Money in the Bank being at Mania because it feels like Money in the Bank hasn't been the same since it left Mania, and I think that is a whole that's a whole video to itself, right? Yeah. But in terms of the secondary championships, once you add the depth and the right talent in, once you start prioritizing those segments, and once you actually give them those showcases, they were doing pretty well. Dakota Kai had an amazing showcase in the finals with Lyra. And you don't need to have those kind of matches every single week, but that consistency, having the champions be a presence, having the champions feel like champions, whether they're sitting and scouting, whether they're watching backstage in the Bret Hart position, backstage where they're just watching on the TV, you know what I mean? Having to mix it up with the upper mid carders, the upper guys as well. Having some of the upper guys and girls come in, like I would like to see Bailey become U.S. champion or Intercontinental champion one day. not anytime soon. But if she's in that division, getting those people like to a point, I'm just saying, that would be pretty cool. Or if you're going to have these giant battle royals, more opportunities to get those secondary titles. If you're going to have a big battle royal, like a 15 from Raw, 15 from SmackDown, have the prize actually mean something. Because if you do an Andre the Giant style battle royal for the men and the women, give them a title shot. It shouldn't just be, oh, this is some fun little, seat warmer of a match.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
With a trophy that they can't pick up.
How do you feel, Matt? You feel
All right.
like
What about you, Matt?
All
did
right,
that
as
spark
far
some ideas?
I'm 100% with Ty on this fucking ladder. 'Cause I feel like that's where they're going with the Intercontinental title for Mania. Because y'all did say something about having Braun Breaker surrounded by whoever's not in the main event scene.
Yep.
But before I get to the Intercontinental title, because the Intercontinental title I feel like is a lot easier of a fix.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in SmackDown, here's where I get upset. Andrade. You have Andrade, you have Damian Priest, you have Drew McIntyre, you have Jimmy Uso. Break up Johnny Gargano and fucking Tommaso Ciampa. That's just my opinion with that. You have The Miz. You have all these guys that are in fucking the Wyatt Six or whatever that can actually fucking go, right?
That's
You
true.
have Aaron Rowan where nobody really takes serious, but you have Joe Gacy. Joe Gacy can be in a fucking U.S. title run. He could have a U.S. title feud where the Wyatt Six can fucking pick on Shinsuke Nakamura or something. But you have options, bro. You have options. They have a mid-card scheme. You got Jimmy Uso, who is just floundering. They don't have nothing to do with it. There's ways they can go about it. They
Hell,
have the talent to make it work. It's just
Solo
a
and
matter
Jacob
of
too.
Solo and Jacob too. Solo for sure. Solo hasn't won a title. So I'm like, yo, it makes no sense to me. Like you have Tama Tonga, who doesn't have his weak ass fucking tag partner holding him back. Do something with him.
Oh, Tom ain't weak now. No, let's not do that to Tom.
I didn't say Tonga was weak. I said Tonga Low is fucking weak.
Oh, okay, my fault.
Right? So all you got to do is create something that puts them on TV more. You know what I'm saying? Like Montez Ford, even though I like the new look and scenery of the Street Profits now, but once they get their tag titles from DIY, break these motherfuckers up, bro. Shake up the mid card a little bit, bro. Just take it up a little bit. Now, as far as Raw is concerned, honestly, bro, send Carmelo to fucking Raw, bro. You just need a personal issue, bro. We don't need no ladder match. We don't need no gimmick match. We don't need it to be competition or nothing. No, it's something personal. The IC title is literally like what everybody wanted. That was a title everybody wanted when they were kids. There's your personal issue. You got what the fuck I want. You got what I want. So AJ Styles being in the running, I have no problem with that. Austin Theory needs to get in the mix. You need fucking why is Chad Gable not going after the fucking Intercontinental title? This was pissing me the fuck off.
Or the U.S. one.
Or the U.S. one, because Ty's been pining for that since forever.
But he's on Raw. That's my thing. You're on Raw, and your biggest gripe is you're on some Donald Trump shit trying to get rid of all the Mexicans. Fucker for what?
That is definitely a way to think about it. I don't know if that's the right way by any means. No, I agree with you in the sense that he should be used more. This is kind of why I wish he would have went to SmackDown. You know, a new coat of paint, new kind of like a fresh start, and then you're going after the patriotic belt.
Brothers. I love him with the Creed brothers, right? But if your goal is we're gonna all have titles, then nigga lead by example. Why is Braun Breaker still a fucking champion?
He'd be the first one to win it. Yeah.
Exactly. Go for that. Who cares about this lucha libre fetish? Nobody cares. Like, come on, bro. Pete Dunne, my nigga. Like Logan Paul. Logan Paul needs to be Intercontinental champion now. That's just my opinion.
I don't know about now, but I could see that down the road.
I don't know about right now.
I can
Boy,
see it. I can see that down the road for sure.
Tyler Bate.
Oh, he
Come
just
on.
got he just came
he
back.
just got cleared.
Yeah, he just
Listen,
But
came
that's what
back
I'm
there.
saying.
Ilya there too.
Ilya is close. I think Ilya is
He's
recovering.
working his way back. He was training.
Yeah,
He
Ilya's
was training not too
recovering.
long ago. So there's a
Jaguar.
depth, and if you bring it back to the women, we made this mention before. The women's Intercontinental title division seems deep is deep enough that there's plenty of possibilities there between people like Zelina, Shayna Baszler, what was it? Zoe Stark. You have
Maxine
Hell,
Dupree.
hell,
Maxine Dupree would be one of those like kind of like feel good stories since she's been improving
Exactly.
throughout the year.
Has she?
I wouldn't use Kaden Carter and Casey Catanzaro. I'll address that a little bit later with the
I
tag
don't even
title.
know where they're at. Where are they at?
They
Oh,
should be at the
they are.
forefront of the tag division. That's where
I
they
don't
should
even
be.
see them. I don't know where they're at.
I,
Where are they?
Casey was in the early qualifiers for the Intercontinental Championship tournament, but like, I'm not saying that. Here's the thing I do want to establish: tag team wrestlers can go after singles belts too. Like we've seen
Facts.
that throughout time. But here's the thing: the reason why it annoys me now is because the women's tag division still lacks depth in terms of how it's perceived. It hasn't changed that much since the initial controversies a few years ago, to where like there's an actual depthful women's tag division. If anything, I feel like the belt would benefit more from being on NXT for a while,
That's a
just
fact.
because they're not using certain people. Like Casey Catanzaro, I think she's Katana Chance now. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter would do better being at the forefront of the division because they're a true foundational team. They're a true team that you can have for a couple years, be that what do you call it? Be one of the mainstays of the division that people will recognize right away, right? Similar to how the Dudleys were for a few years. You can have people, you can have a lot of different teams in general that I think can be that for the men and the women. You know, I feel bad for the tag division because historically WWE has never been consistent enough with it. We've seen some great teams have some great spurts of time and highlights, but they never really worked hard enough on it, which is why NXT made me so hopeful because of how Triple H was treating tag teams in NXT for the longest time. But for the women especially, they need that because you have to be able to define a lot of these divisions now. Like even if the division is between both shows, Raw, SmackDown, or even with NXT as well, right? Raw needs teams. SmackDown needs teams. NXT has them, but like Bianca Belair and Naomi's not gonna last very long. Like eventually Liv and Raquel are gonna break up, right? We need teams that need each other. You feel what I'm saying? Like they're working together to build each other up, to build up their brand. We don't need teams. We don't need all these alliances the way that WWE's constantly been doing. So if they do call up a lot of women and men, because I've heard that recently with the releases, if they call up more people, can y'all call up some teams?
Metaphor, call up Praxium. To be honest, like especially after watching last night, in terms of NXT Avengers, like, yeah, much respect to the War Raiders, much respect to DIY, but the best tag team, especially from the men's side, is Fraxium.
But Fraxium's not even gonna like. Eventually, like their whole story was they were an odd couple pairing, and eventually they will break up. But my thing is like, what about the teams that need? I'm saying when I say foundational teams, I mean people who need each other.
Okay.
Who genuinely need each other at the moment and for the long term to get over with each other before they can break off or branch off if they choose to. You know what I mean? Because you could even make the argument that the Street Profits right now don't necessarily need each other. They could be pushed solo if you wanted to.
Need to be.
You know what I'm saying? We need more of that. We need more of those genuine teams of like you want to see these two grow together and show why they're the best in the world. And both of those divisions need that. Now granted, the men have those teams, but you got to use them. The hell of like the War Raiders and the Creeds could have a feud for the ages. But on SmackDown, it's literally just Legado, Motor City Machine Guns, and then the other teams are kind of just like Theory and Waller shouldn't even be a team anymore.
Yeah.
To the point of that,
now, ain't they?
I guess so.
I guess they're starting. It's starting to dissension. Like you're starting to see it
Bro, I'm
between
befuddled.
NXT. Like,
But then
I'm
Matt's
befuddled.
right. DIY is like, why is DIY?
together still.
I feel like they need each other, but for the wrong reason. Like they pause. They need each other for like the what you call it. They need each other because they're treading water booking wise, but they shouldn't be. It's not so much, oh, we need to be a team to get over. It's more so like we need a team to be relevant, and that's not good.
Like Tommaso could definitely be a heel threat to Cody. He has the chops to pull it off.
And
Gargano could be also a fucking runner for fucking Shinsuke. He can be going head to head with Shinsuke for the US title. Like, build them. They don't need to be a fucking tag team. They're credible. And they have Triple H that's part of booking. It's not like he doesn't know how to book them. So
Yeah,
where the fuck, like, man,
it's
they need to black and gold this motherfucker.
nah. Listen, Matt's 100% correct. Like Trips need to kind of like bring back some of that like booking that he
That
did when he was in
NXT
NXT,
flair.
the
He
NXT
needs
flair.
to.
But in the
Shinsuke should not be U.S. champion. I'm sorry. He shouldn't be.
he should
One of my
he can't
favorite
be.
feuds was him and Cody last year. He should not be the fucking U.S. champion.
he honestly should be higher on the card than that.
Thank you.
That ass. They
But
got-
I've been saying that for damn near 10 years.
Ty, you
I,
my boy. We here. I'm right there with you. You know I'm gonna say it. You know I'm
DIY.
gonna say it.
but here's another point that I think Matt was alluding to. These divisions are what people don't realize because it's been so long. The Intercontinental and U.S. Championship divisions for the men and the women are proving ground divisions. These are where you're storing some of the most competitive, high impact action, and
What does
these are
Shinsuke need to prove? What does
I'm
he
not.
need to prove?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying beyond even that. These are where you're putting a lot of your stars of tomorrow and a lot of the people you should be booking down the road anyway. So
Facts.
if you put all your effort into these divisions, you will have a factory of stars and options to use for the world title months
Orton,
after they've.
Benoit.
Yeah,
Just saying.
there are a lot of people. Like, what did they do? Eddie Guerrero won the U.S. Championship when it got rechristened as the WWE U.S. Championship,
Exactly.
and
He was
months
the
after
European
that,
champion too.
and what was he doing months after that? He was holding both the tag and U.S. titles. Ended up becoming WWE champion by the early part of 2004,
The
I
anniversary
believe.
just passed.
So, like, you got to get to a point where you can do that. Like, not everyone's going to get it immediately, of course, but if you continue to make that division sort of like this melting pot of different talents, and everyone's building each other up, and you got these competitive ass divisions, you're gonna sit there a few months from now, and let's say, similar to how you said with NXT, how there are not a lot of options for the world title, you're gonna sit there and be like, "What do you mean there are no options? I see that boy tearing it up over the like you're gonna Shannon Sharp the hell out of that. You're gonna see all these different people that could jump to the women's world title, men's world title right away. That's how we felt about Dolph and Morrison and what do you call it, Shelton and Carlito and a lot of them for years.
Bro, why is Austin Theory not fighting Cody? Like, why? Why is Grayson Waller not
To be
like
honest, Grayson Waller. I'll continue, Matt.
like why is Grayson Waller not in the mid card division? Austin Theory already proved that he can be in the mid card and he's a star. He beat John Cena, for Christ's sake. He beat John Cena, bro.
Didn't go nowhere though.
That's my fucking point. That's my fucking point. I'm pissed with this shit. Like, come on, bro. Shinsuke should not be U.S. champion, bro. I have no problem with Braun Breaker being IC champion because it's literally technically his first year on the main roster, right? But goddamn, give him something to stick his teeth in, bro. Like, come on, bro. Like, Carmelo Hayes and him, they have history. If you bring in Ilya back, fuck it. Let
Hey,
them rock
Chad.
the boat with that.
Hey,
Like,
Chad.
something. Huh?
Isn't it ironic that Austin Theory's win over Cena is similar to Fandango's win over Jericho?
Boy.
Ooh.
Boy.
That's how it's being looked at historically right now.
God damn.
That's how it's being looked at historically right now.
Fucking Fandango.
Welcome back to NXT, by the way, Fandango. Now that you're bringing over you started off as Fandango. Now you're John JDC again.
JDC.
Are you lying? You dead ass? He's back?
Yeah.
He showed up in NXT a few weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
God damn it. No, he needs to be Fandango.
He wanted that Heritage Cup.
Bro, I need him to do the dumbass dance in the song. The song was lit. We had the Garden and that stadium.
Speaking of the Garden, NXT is hosting a live televised event from the Garden on March 11th.
You know I'm mad at you, right?
Why me?
You know why? Because I remember telling you, we were talking about Ricky Starks earlier. I remember telling you about the HOG show with Ricky Starks and Kenta, and I didn't get any response back. And then I saw y'all looking at tickets for Mercedes going to HOG.
Yeah, you're right. But there was a reason for Ricky, but yeah.
But if we go to the NXT in MSG, that would be cool.
That would be cool.
Also, another thing, I think another way to establish some help with the secondary championships is knowing the tiers of where they're supposed to be.
Yes.
I say secondary because it's supposed to be secondary to the world title, not secondary as in like no one cares, right? But especially for NXT talents, which NXT talent should be going after which championships is an interesting conversation to have, because you can make an argument that at this point the NXT championship should be looked at as maybe a tier behind the Intercontinental title, as opposed to, or the US championship, as opposed to a tier or a notch below the World Heavyweight Championship like it was looked at a couple years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to also establish that as well, because now you can't. That goes back to NXT's biggest issue. A lot of people have been saying third brand. I want to make a distinction. Back in the black and gold days, NXT being called a third brand was more of a spiritual thing, because the main roster TV was so bad and NXT's TV was so good that it was magnified by how bad it was on the main roster, that people went, this is the real WWE programming.
Mm-hmm.
When people say that NXT is a third brand now, that's what they would like it to be. But with all these cameos for main roster stars, and then on top of that, a lot of these guys are newer, they're greener, they're fresher. It really is just developmental on TV again. And you can make the argument it's always been developmental on TV, but Finn Balor's NXT championship reign, Adam Cole's NXT championship reign feels different than, what do you call it? The modern, not even Obafemi, but like, Trick Williams and Ethan Page and the reigns of now. So in reality, you have to make an establishment in the hierarchy there too. Like, should the North American women's champion be going after the women's championship upon their arrival if they don't contend for the NXT women's title? It should depend on their momentum. Should it depend on where they were? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to make those clear distinctions too, because it's only fair, I'd say.
Okay, cool. First of all, good take, guys. It's been a lot of good takes in terms of how we can improve the secondary title scene. We can definitely talk about this topic till the cows come home in terms of like how to improve it, but it's pretty good to kind of just point out some of the solutions in terms of what the mid card can definitely, especially the secondary titles can definitely do, especially within the mid card scene in WWE. Trips does have a plethora of talent. He has a lot, of depth within his roster. It's just a matter of, how he's using it and creatively how to basically integrate into WWE TV. Obviously, right now on the main roster, we're going on to WrestleMania season, and they're basically kicked in high gear with that. But beyond that, moving forward from that, I do think following WrestleMania, they have to kind of find that structure and find that sweet spot in order to basically make their show much more well-rounded. Especially now that, Raw is on Netflix and SmackDown's 3 hours on the USA Network, you have to find ways to kind of make your show more well-rounded for all your stars. And not just because you're in WrestleMania season, you got to rush to put this guy over or this guy over or this story, to make it more magnified on TV, because you do have a depth of talent all throughout, not just on the main roster, but also NXT as well.